Good. How are you doing?
Good. Ooh, we have some new faces. Good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world, everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey. Hi, Grant.
Hey, how's things?
Good. Good.
Kia ora, guys.
Hey, Jack.
Finally, yeah, made it on here, guys. Nice to meet you all virtually.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, good to meet you, team.
I think people may still be coming in, but since we're starting just a few minutes late, Erin's there's Grant.
We've got New Zealand in the house and Australia in the house, and we've got I'm so excited, and Canada, representing Canada. I love everybody. Mwah, mwah. I'm not here.
She's not here. Yeah.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Shanden, and thank you so much for coming to this event tonight. It's so nice to see your faces after some of the emails that we've exchanged over the past few weeks. We have a great session in store for you all. We have Erin from Waves for Women, who is going to be our co-host today. Just to start things off really quickly, we do an icebreaker, and since there are quite a few of you who are new, we asked everyone the same questions. So if you could please, and I think we can figure out an order, but just if you could introduce yourself, a short bit about the organization you're with, and then tell us what makes you mad, glad, and sad so we get an idea of what you're passionate about. Let's see, could we start with Nikki, please?
Hey guys.
Hey.
So I'm Nikki, and I own a business in Northern California called Marin Outdoor Adventure. And Amanda, who's on here as well, shared with me this information to join today, which I'm super excited about. What makes me mad, glad, and sad? Is that what it is? Okay, what makes me mad is mean people. What makes me glad is the ocean and my children. And what makes me sad is the state of the environment and our planet.
Well, thank you very much. Definitely easy to see why that makes you sad, but I like all your happy parts too. All right, Grant, you're up.
Hey, Grant from One Wave. Good to meet you, everyone. So I'm from One Wave. It's a non-profit surf community. It's about raising awareness of mental health through saltwater therapy, surfing, and fluoro. So we surf in bright outfits every Friday to start more conversations about mental health. My mad would be, people not being kind. Glad would be the ocean and surfing and hanging out with all you legends. And then what makes me sad would be seeing people facing mental health challenges alone and not being able to reach out for help.
Thank you so much, Grant. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, kia ora, guys. Jack from New Zealand coordinator of Surfing for Farmers. And so we get farmers off farm and into the water for a free learn to surf lesson, followed by a barbecue and a bit of a yarn afterwards, once a week throughout the whole of summer, and now in 19 regions around New Zealand. So yeah, happy to be here. And what makes me mad is probably getting out of the shower and there's a wet towel, probably not a dry towel, wet towel. Glad to be here, really. Yeah, glad to meet you guys and connect with other surf therapy organizations around the world. And sad to be know the extreme mental health issues in New Zealand and the problem we have here. But yeah, glad it could be. So that's where I'm at there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. What about Saraf? You're up. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Sorry if I didn't.
Yeah, it's okay. Hi, I'm Saraf. I'm from Healing Wave Therapy in California. What makes me mad? When people don't say what they mean. What makes me happy? Surf today. was good. What makes me sad? No surf.
I think we can all relate to that one. Thank you so much. And then what about Miss Amanda? Because Pascal, you were here last time. Oh, I think you're muted, Amanda.
Someone's always got to do that, right?
Yes, thanks for getting that out of the way.
Yeah, I'll take it. So I started an organization called Blue Zone Marin because my hope, I don't know if everyone knows that there's great research about blue zones where people live longer and they're really happy. And it turns out that they're pretty much always by the water. And so I'm working with Nikki from Marin Outdoor Adventure and doing surf therapy here in Northern California. And that's my child. So I am so happy. I'm happiest when I get to bring my own children out into the ocean. And when I get to introduce surfing to other young people when they get to do it for the first time, and you just see that joy. So that makes me so incredibly happy. I get really, let's say, mad. What comes to mind is corporate greed and irresponsibility. And sad, I definitely would be, I'll also share in the climate injustice. And I'm really happy to get to be here.
Oh, great. Well, welcome. And then Chris, since we've never asked you this question, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you mad, glad, and sad, please?
Oh, well, okay. So Chris, and, the fortunate privilege of getting to work alongside a network of individuals such as yourselves who really just want to make the world a better place. And they want to do it through the ocean and surf therapy. So thank you for the important work that all of you are doing out there. It's so good to see all of these faces. Mad. What makes me mad? I mean, shark fin soup, overfishing, definitely. What makes me glad? We're talking to a group of surfers. What makes me glad? Perfect right-hand point breaks like Jeffreys Bay. And what makes me sad? I guess I'm just going to go there. Life on Earth without my dad. That makes me really sad. I know he's here, but it doesn't feel the same when you want to have a chat with him. So anyway, thank you everybody for being here. Looking forward to this.
Thanks. Thank you everyone for sharing a little bit about yourself. And without further ado, we're going to move forward to our wonderful presentation. I'd like to again introduce Erin from Waves for Women. Erin's, I guess you can speak a little bit to what who your nonprofit serves, obviously women, but take it away, Erin.
Yeah, thank you. You might hear my children in the background because everyone's still awake. It's 8:30 here. And I foolishly thought that maybe they'd be asleep or like in the room, but they're not. So they're probably going to come in. But I'm a clinical social worker. We're a therapeutic nonprofit therapeutic surf program. We work with women ages 18 and over, and we say women in trauma, but really it's just kind of inclusive of domestic violence, sexual assault, depression, anxiety, postpartum, major life transitions, really just across the board. So we started in April of 2019. I worked as a clinician before that, and I worked with doing wellness with Warrior Surf Foundation, another surf program, prior to starting Waves for Women. And hopefully this summer we're gonna try a pilot project working with girls and with women. So that's the other piece of it. Do we want to just jump into the?
We can. We have a couple questions for all of you. Are you all up for answering some questions today? Okay, so the first one and I also wanted to mention I'm a social worker also, and I work with a nonprofit, but we specialize in supporting children with special needs. So it was kind of a cool collaboration with Erin and I, since we both kind of have that skill set. I know Chris wanted us to talk a little bit about being social workers in the surf therapy arena, because oftentimes they're occupational therapists. And I think that as social workers, we bring some of the interventions to surf therapy, which I think is especially important, or it can be, for our populations.
And I can just add to the social work piece. I guess, you know, when we started, I was not, when I started with Warrior Surf, I was not a surfer. I was a swimmer and I did triathlon. So I was I was the clinician. And then as I would come out, they would say, you have to learn how to surf. You can't just come out and sit on the beach and be the clinician. So I was like, you know, so that is kind of where I learned the surf piece. And I think the social work part helps because, and we'll talk about it today, but like collaboration is big, I think, for social workers and probably for a lot of backgrounds. But I think something that for me has been really important is just really being a part of the community and really trying to not necessarily not duplicate what other programs are already doing, but just try to collaborate and work together so that we're really addressing the needs of like the community as a whole, knowing that like we can't individually do it. So I think that's a little part of it.
Okay, so our first question is for all of you. So what are some of the qualities you look for in your best coaches? I mean, they could be coaches who are teaching the surf instructors techniques, or they could be coaches on the beach with the mental health clinicians. Just some of the things that pop into your head, if anybody has any ideas or anything they'd like to share.
I'll jump in really fast. I know for us, when we were first looking for coaches, we were fortunate from the standpoint of my co-founder was pretty tied in to the female surf community where we live, which is fairly small. So that was really helpful. But as we've continued, we can't just rely on, you know, like the 10 surf, you know, like really skilled female surf instructors. So we've had to kind of shift a bit and start utilizing assistant instructors. So like women that have maybe come out to the program before and are really interested and want to, you know, continue. And I think quality, you know, when we first started the program, we were really, really looking at like, you know, how long have you surfed? And like, you know, have you taught before? And and then it's kind of shifted a bit into, you know, not only how long have you surfed, but like, how's your ability to like establish rapport and make people feel comfortable and like break things down into like, you know, understandable terms and just relate to people. Like those have been the things that we're working pretty much with beginners. So beginner surfers. So like being able to have those conversations and like establish a relationship and have the women trust them, that's gotten, you know, that's really important.
Have any of you come across any challenges like that, just finding out the quality you're looking for? And if so, like what's the next step you've taken?
Well, we've got 2 surf directors, like co-directors. And so this year we've shifted a bit and we have like lead instructors. So if we've got 12 women, they're broken at a clinic, we break them into 2 groups. So half's doing wellness, half are in the water. We used to just have everybody in the water at the same time. And then there's like another surf school, like 2 blocks down. And then it just was too much. So now we'll have like 2 lead instructors, and then we'll have, you know, a couple assistants and water support. So really it's been like just as long as we've got, you know, I think for us, it's the safety piece. So having some people that are there that are lifeguard certified, that are paying attention, having, you know, 2 to 3 really skilled instructors. And then we have, you know, we go over like the training manual and we go over the skills. And again, we're still keeping the skills pretty basic. So, and we go over like, because we're working with women who've experienced trauma, like that's a part of the training beforehand as well. Just very kind of basic, giving our volunteers, instructors, and like water support information on what they might expect, what might happen, and kind of some basic ways they can respond. But yeah, we've had to get creative because, you know, like 3 years in and we'll do 16 Saturdays in a row. Like there's only so many people that want to come, you know, 16 times in their summer. So on a Saturday morning. And I've actually, yeah, and we've started just reaching out to even universities and like finding the surf clubs. And yes, Chris, we have a manual that we can share. Finally, year 3 manual. Yes.
All right, so I know some of you, like I know Pascal, like you have very specialized coaches who you need. Have you had any challenges finding anybody who's able to really adequately help your population, or how's all that going for you?
For coaches, is it?
Yes.
Well, for me, it's been sort of easy because we started the program with some friends who are also working at the rehabilitation center, like physical rehabilitation center with me. So we're all used to have people with physical limitation, but finding volunteers who kind of know how to work with this population was a bit hard. And then finding volunteers who are also able to do a stand-up paddleboard, like mixing both. It was a bit hard. So we kind of decided to go with like, even if you don't know how to do SUP, for example, you can like follow us on your knees, but then you'll be able to help us for transfer and stuff. So that's how we proceed.
Oh, that's great. And has anyone else run into any challenges at all with the people you bring in for volunteers, as far as qualifications go?
Yes, so One Wave is very much focused on prevention, so raising awareness of mental health. So when we run Fluoro Friday events, which is weekly, and we have volunteer tribe leaders. So we've been super lucky about the people that come and, you know, they run it like their own community. That's part of a bigger One Wave community. But when we're looking for people to run it, we try and find someone who's a frother, so someone who's a surfer, because then they bring all the surf community, someone who's got a real story, who can, you know, share their story about what they're going through. And ideally would have someone like a mental health professional. But we say before every talk, hey, we're not mental health professionals. We're just, you know, a surf community passionate about mental health, and we partner up with local doctors and psychologists so that we can start the convo. But I guess the challenge we've had is if there's a beach and there's only one person and they don't surf, they're happy to share their story, but sometimes it's hard to get the surfer and the mental health professionals. So in those situations, and then you get one person running it and they might not get many people turning up, and so they don't have the support. So what we've tried to find is to make sure there's at least 2 people at every beach, because then if it's only them that turns up, there's always one person there. So
Okay, that's smart. That's smart. And Chris just mentioned that ISTO is putting together, oh, I said it, that ISTO is putting together a training for coaches, which hopefully will be helpful and can, you know, be supportive of those challenges and hopefully make them a little easier. So the next question that we've been asked is, how do you all go about recruiting your coaches or your clinicians?
I'll jump in really quickly since I'm co-facilitating and since we talked about this a little bit, but I think for myself, it's been easier for me since I am a clinician to recruit clinicians and so we tend to use, if I find somebody who's like, right, this summer, we actually have a psychiatrist who's also a surfer and a female, which is like unbelievable. And so then of course, you know, like as soon as I find her, I want to know like which of her coworkers might surf, like who else can she pull in? And we've been fortunate to find like occupational therapists that are also surfers. The clinical, like for those of you that actually, you know, for me at least, finding clinicians has been relatively easy or easier, because when a clinician comes out, I also remind them if they, and we do more wellness coaching. So we're not doing trauma focused therapy, but what I do remind them is if they want to share with our women, like their own, like what they do for private practice, like if they want to share their own services, because right now we're 100% volunteer based, I let them know. I mean, I try to make sure that people aren't showing up just to recruit clients, you know, like I try to screen for that a little bit, but also letting them know if somebody comes and they're a surf instructor and they are able to instruct like independently, like that's great for us, because we just do, women come for 4 sessions and they most likely want to keep a certain percentage, want to keep going. So I guess for the instructors and for the clinicians, if somebody's able to run groups outside of what we're doing, or able to run, you know, provide honestly massage therapy, like anything kind of holistic. I mean, we do try to do some vetting process before, but I feel like that helps them at least feel like maybe we're not paying them, but that helps them also with their profession. Did I answer that question? I hope I did. I might have got
I'm saying yes. I see the nod.
Okay.
So, okay, so then let's see. So I'm looking at our notes here. So you're talking about, you know, did you say, okay, so you're co-founders part of the surf community, and then ways of finding volunteers or clinicians. You're talking about Facebook?
Well, we've done social media. Honestly, we've done a lot of university, like connecting with the university, and then we've been able to find. So, like, you know, I'll go speak, and not because it's not because I'm like an amazing, like that they're looking for. Anyway, the point is, I'll speak at the occupational therapy school, or I'll go speak briefly at like the social work school, or reaching out to professors who have like education students. And we get volunteers that way. And they'll call them interns, but they're not getting paid. You know, I mean, we're not. So I feel like we've gotten a lot of volunteers through like the universities, just connecting with professors, and they'll send students out. We had an occupational therapy professor that was giving her students class credit for coming to help. And we just, you know, shared our curriculum and met with them. So that's been a great way, exercise science students to get people out as well. And honestly, like I reach out to any surf club I can find that's anywhere near, and or surf schools. I'm always really careful to not interfere with when they're teaching. But we only have one surf school that's female run. And right now, because we're working with women and trauma, we've only utilized female instructors, which is obviously a limited population. But I'll reach out to the female run surf school and say, if we're running clinics at times where you aren't utilizing, or you don't need your instructors, like we would love, you know, to have them come out. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear other people.
Cool to add on there. So one of our regions, all of our regions are run by head coaches, and they're all voluntary. And one of them in Waihi in the North Island, he is a school teacher, and so he's implemented an NCEA. So for some of you don't know, it's like a high school curriculum education. And so he's actually made a specific class or credits for certain farmers. And so he gets students, how it works. You've got to be able to, you're not just rewarded, have the privilege to just go and coach. You have to get your grades up to then be able to have the right to then go and coach, because it's out of school time. And you know, what student loves to go get a bit of you know, time off class to go teach some farmers. And so it's a really well run, and then it's really sustainable, because obviously each year there's kids coming up, and you do it with the older kids, obviously the last year 13. So then I don't know what grades in America that is, but the oldest kids. And then that way you have a sustainable coaches coming through every year, coming through. And so that's something in Waihi that's working really well. And you know, and it also teaches them, you know, communication and working with farmers, and introducing them to mental health. Why are we teaching these farmers? What is the purpose? Why are they getting off farm? Because they're getting off farm because they're lonely, because they're isolated, because they're in their heads. And so it actually teaches them a lot of skills at an age of 17, 16, from that age, whereas at high school, you're just not taught those things. You know, you're not taught mental health, or how the brain works, or what is life. You know, it's all just like, so a really sustainable way is using, you know, universities kids and high school kids in your program.
And I like what you said about, I think this is an important part when you mentioned that, you know, it sounds like the professor or the teachers kind of choosing the students, or making sure that they have to meet a certain level, you know, where before he kind of selects or allows like who comes out. And that helps you guys with kind of that pre-screening process. Yeah,
it's a right to go and teach these guys, even though obviously more help the better, but it just gives the kids motivation in class to raise their grades and work harder for something bigger for themselves, and teach them those skills. So it's something that's working really well. And if we were short of coaches, all our surf regions are supported by surf schools, so we don't have the problem of coaches, but all our regions are run by head volunteers who organize the night, and some surf, some don't, but they're in the farm, business farm world, or aligned to to the bigger cause, to our bigger why, Surfing for Farmers why. So yeah.
Thank you. What about anybody else? How you found volunteers, or how you keep them coming? I feel like that's our big challenge. Like, we can get people, and then they may come for a season, and then I feel like people can get, certainly with our 16 Saturdays in a row, like people can get burnt out. So I always wonder, how do we keep? I think I'm sure other programs. I know I've heard other programs describe this. We have had, some women go through the program, and if they really, really like the surfing and kind of stick with it, we've tried to offer kind of ongoing training so that they could become basic instructors. I'm guessing, I know Warrior Surf did that when I was there. I'm not sure if other organizations are doing that, but I think the retention piece is hard too. It's like getting them in, sometimes they're fresh and they're excited, and then how do we retain them? Especially if we're not paying.
Yeah, if any of you have returned volunteers, like, what's worked for you?
I'll just say a few things. This is a really helpful topic. I'm really grateful that I'm on here. My business is it's a for-profit business, but I've been doing a lot of sort of surf therapy stuff over the years, starting out working with Shanden organization, which does adventures for young adult cancer survivors. And then through them started working with teens who are inpatient for suicide attempts and eating disorders and that kind of stuff. And also working with some of the more underprivileged communities here in Marin. And so retaining volunteers, when I've done stuff where it's volunteering, where I'm trying to get volunteers, it's a lot of times like my friends in the surf community who I'm close with, who I know are good surfers, or I know would make good teachers, and they'll come in because they believe in the organization. And then but retaining them is really difficult, and to do it ongoing, I'm really struggling with, and I'm starting to, so now I actually pay my instructors when we're working, even when it's volunteer stuff that I'm not getting paid for. And then I try to do some sort of like fundraising, but I don't really know much about that. So sort of like taking that as like giving back, but I feel like I have to pay them, and I want to pay them in order to make it work, just in terms of retaining them and having people continuing to make it sustainable. But I don't really have a solution.
Oh, are you going to jump in, Erin?
I'll wait. I can go up to you.
Oh yeah. A good idea could be, so how many coaches do you have, Nikki?
Yeah, I have right now about 9.
So you could, 9 coaches. You could individually, you could get them locally sponsored by companies, and so they'll each be sponsored by a local doctor or a local physio or local cafe. It doesn't matter what it is, and so they'll have, and then you'll be able to promote, say, this is Jeremy, he's sponsored by Taringa doctors, and this is what they do, and tell them why they're sponsoring that coach. And so it could be a sponsorship based, and so that way you're covered. Because I also believe in, to be sustainable, there's only coaches that are going to give 1 season, 2 seasons. Beyond that, it's and so paying them is the incentive to do that. And so that could look like a sponsorship based per coach.
That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that.
That's a really cool idea, Jack. Thanks for sharing. So how does it work? Would they pay them like a weekly kind of fee for the events?
Yeah, so we we get charged by surf schools, but I know because I've done work for Gisborne Board Riders. So if I'm coming into providing a surf lesson, he runs it like he pays per lesson. So you get credit, and at the end of the season, he's got a sponsor, like a wetsuit sponsor. So you can either pick to get a brand new wetsuit or whatever that is. So that's the other option, is that over the season, if I do 10 sessions at $45, that's $450. I could either choose to get a new wetsuit that's either donated or supplied by the wetsuit company. And so those are the two options, or I can take the money. It doesn't, but so there's either the money option, or he'll get like a surf coach down from Tauranga, and he'll do like a weekend of surf filming for myself. So we'll do like a full workshop weekend. So there's just different ways you can repay coaches, and a wetsuit company could come on board and donate or half price wetsuits, and then that way it cuts your costs down for paying that person at the end of the summer. And then at the end of the summer, you've earned yourself a new wetsuit and you're stoked as a coach, or whatever that looks like.
Love that. That's the thing. It keeps them stoked, and also it keeps it local because it supports the local businesses, which I love.
Yeah.
Can I just add really quickly, another really incredible thing is, well, first of all, give to Grant, what Grant just said, give your local businesses the opportunity. They don't know you're doing what you're doing. And they're not down on the beach. And by the way, you get them down on the beach one time, they'll be like, what can we give you? In-kind donations will change the game for you. If you can get, let's say you have a lunch covered, or you have, as Jack just said, wetsuits covered or surfboards covered, that then leaves money when you do get money to pay the people that you do want to pay. So the in-kind donations obviously are money. They just look and feel a little different. But yeah, I would say the biggest piece of like missing piece in fundraising is a lot of us are not fundraisers. It's not a comfortable place to be, as Erin mentioned, but man, the minute you tell them what you're doing, are you kidding? Surf therapy is the coolest freaking thing out there. And this idea of an alternative methodology to mental health support in a world that has exacerbated the need for mental health support. Like, this is the thing. Everybody wants to get involved with it. So let them know what you're doing. And I promise you, I mean, if it's the local pizza joint, if it's the local coffee place, Jack, like you mentioned, like anything, just let them know. They will love you as much as I love you.
That's awesome.
Then I'll say, to, I guess, jump on board with what some of you guys are saying, is we did finally like join. So Folly is our beach. We joined the Folly Association of Businesses, and just being a part of that, like giving back to the community, but then knowing that if they know what we're doing, it's easier for me to then ask for things or partnerships or collaborations. And I know one thing we're going to try this year, just because we serve women, is having some wellness meetups. So just some beach meetups that we'll have like a yoga instructor at, and we may not even necessarily surf, but inviting women from local businesses out, including women who are like at bigger companies or bigger corporations, or like surf companies, or just, for us at least, I think, to say we want to give back to them and support them during this time by like offering them some free wellness. And my hope is that's, one way that we're kind of building those relationships as well. Because I agree, like Jack, when several, and Nikki said this too, that's our goal this year, is to start paying something. We have a lot of moms that come out, and I think I calculated, for me, I was like, I spend $1,500 in childcare in the summer and I don't get paid. Like, I don't pay myself. I can't ask, that needs to change. Same for the instructors.
And companies are so keen, like our whole organization is based off local businesses in each region. They support local regions. So we've got 19, and they each have their own level of sponsorship. And then we've got like an overall national sponsorship. But companies just have money there, like corporations. They got so much money to give, and trusts, and like, the money's there. It's just knocking on doors and just starting that. And once you start to feel comfortable in doing that, and what you're sharing, like Chris Chris said and Erin, it's you're sharing surf therapy and this stuff. It's not like you're selling bloody Wikipedias, you're like full just sharing stoke on life, and it's like this, we're making a difference. So it's like just getting out there, knocking on businesses, and like they're super keen to sponsor, and I don't have issues raising money from businesses because they just got money there to spend, and they also get just thought
I guess one question I have kind of in relation to, and I don't want to get us off track too much, but I do feel like, with COVID, I feel like at some point I was having maybe not board members, but certain people say things like, Erin, this might not be a good time to reach out to local businesses. And I think my thought process with regards to that was maybe partially that was where we thought, okay, well, let's do some wellness meetups and we're just going to invite women to come out. And then, at some point in the future, if places are in a position to connect or collaborate, then we can do that. I also get the sense that like businesses and companies can say no, they can, if they're not in a position, they can certainly say no. Anybody else? Shanden, is there anything we want to cover? Still volunteers?
I think that was it, because you talked about partnerships with the schools, and we already talked about in like, ways to pay volunteers.
Yeah.
What about allowing therapists to share their own private practice services? Did we talk about that at all?
I just mentioned that when we have clinicians come out, I do tell them that if they want, honestly, that's a big thing for us. And I feel like that's one way we collaborate is, so we're always I'm very clear when women start the program that we're not an individual trauma program. We are not crisis intervention. We're not med management. So we have an intake process, and women will describe kind of some like what they've been through or some of their symptoms, because I'm a clinician, but I'm always very clear about like what we aren't able to provide. We're not, it's not 24/7. We're not on call. But what's great is that when we bring these clinical volunteers out, if they do provide those services, like I want them, and again, like we vet them beforehand, but we say, please feel free to share, oh, I'm trained in EMDR. Oh, I do yoga therapy and art therapy. And, like for us, that's amazing because I already know that we can't meet the needs of all these women. But if I can bring a clinician on, she's volunteering her time for that session, but then she theoretically could get something out of it and it's going to serve the women well. Like that's huge for all of us. And that's really, we're actually going to be doing and this is the language. So we're going to be doing a program with a trauma-informed yoga program, trying to create diversity and inclusion. So it's targeting, it's actually a yoga and wellness program for women of color with a surf component, and we'll be providing the surf instruction. And, the only way that's possible is because we're partnering with these other nonprofits that do what we don't do, or have those skill sets.
And I think you mentioned that you're partnering with some researchers as well. Would you mind speaking on that as well and kind of the benefit you see from that?
Yeah, we're partnering with our medical university here. Has a women's health research team. So it's like an interdisciplinary team. And so they're going to help us with our data from last year. So we do like baseline and then, 4 weeks later, and then ideally a month later, but not always, assessments. And we have been fortunate to connect with this, one of the professors on the team. So they're going to help with like assessing, looking at the data that we have and doing some analysis and then helping us make some changes moving forward. And the other part, honestly, guys, this was like huge for us, since I have no background in marketing and or social media, is that we found a professor during COVID, like in the summer, they had an opportunity to connect with business professors at the local college. And I connected with the business professor who was also like a social psychologist. And then he worked with us and then connected us with a marketing professor. And this past semester, she had 2 groups of students create for their end of this semester project 2 like 10-page strategic marketing plans for us. So one was for donors. There was a lot of suggestions regarding what we needed to improve, but like with specific verbiage. And then one was actually for how do we reach a more diverse group of women. And so that was huge because that's not my thing. We don't know more. And then the professor kind of goes through it with me and says like, good idea, maybe don't do that. Good idea, maybe don't do that. And that's free help, you know, so, and the students get credit. So yeah, that's been really big. I will, anytime I meet a professor, I try to figure out how they maybe might want to help us.
Thanks. I think next we wanted to talk about setting boundaries.
Yeah, I'll be curious to hear, I'll just share my experience really fast, and then we'd like to hear input from other people. So I'm a social worker, so I've worked in positions before where it's really easy, and maybe you guys have all experienced this, but it's really easy, especially when people come to you and there's such a wide range of needs. So maybe they're presenting, you know, with mental health needs, but then there's all these financial, situational, employment needs. And I've been in situations where all of a sudden the next thing I realized, I was like at the clinics, at the SERF clinics, instead of doing wellness, I was like babysitting the kids while the moms, you know, like while the kids were the parents were in the water, because I have kids. Or you know, all of a sudden I was getting phone calls. There weren't many limitations. So now with Waves for Women, what we do before someone even starts, we have the intake form, but we also have like a consent form, and it describes what we do and then very clearly what we don't do. And I say, we don't do case management. We will give you information on resources that we have connected with, and we make sure we like jump in on like community task force phone calls, like we connect with the community, but I don't make those calls for them. And we are not crisis intervention, so you can't call us at 10 p.m. like, you know, and we'll say, I think Grant, I think I learned this when I was reading through all Grant's material for One Wave. It's like, here's the resources that you can access. You know, you can call the crisis hotline, but I want to be clear that they know that's not something we're going to do. And then even as simple as, I am a therapist and I've done trauma therapy, but this is more experiential and like wellness based positive psychology, and that it's not trauma focused. It doesn't replace individual. If somebody really, really needs that, we can't do meds, you know, like I just want to, we're very, very upfront with that in the beginning, because I've made the mistake of not being clear about that and then feeling really bad when somebody's presenting with substance abuse issues and needing like rehab, and that's like not my area of expertise. So I'm not sure if you guys have had that same experience, but I feel like quite frequently, you know, we spend time with people and we start realizing there's a lot going on in their lives, and they may be looking to us to help with that.
Yeah,
or maybe it's just me.
Well, Erin referred to your program, Grant. Can you kind of talk to like what got you to those guidelines to have those boundaries, or what are some of those experiences?
Yeah, happy to share. So when we started dressing up in fluoro and going surfing, it was really just want to, you know, I'd been through mental health stuff and I was diagnosed with bipolar, but I'm not a mental health professional. So a lot of the tribe is running the Fluoro Fridays. We have an anti-bad vibe circle at the start, and it's just a check-in. It's a safer space. But we always say at the start, hey, look, we're not doctors, we're not professionals. But the reason we started doing that and giving those boundaries is there was quite a few people coming down. If they were struggling when they left the beach, I'll be worrying about them, catching up with coffees and messaging them in the weekends. And so my mental health started to get affected. And I started to chat to Joel, who runs Waves of Wellness. He's a mental health professional, and he was involved in One Wave right from the start too. And I was like, and how do I handle this? Because it's really starting to affect me. He's like, look, our job is to look after people while they're down the beach, and we're not mental health professionals. So let's link up with local doctors, local psychologists, so that when people come down the beach, we can give them the local doctor's number, the local psychologist, and then when they leave the beach, that's the time when we care about them. And obviously, as humans, we're going to want to look out for them, but we've got our family and friends to look out for as well. So as soon as we gave that, and I could train the other tribe with us to say, hey, look, let's link up with local doctors. We created postcards so that when people came down, it's a little info about
Great.
OneWave, but also on the back, support numbers, so we can give those to people. And then we know we've done what we can to support them. So it was like more focused on not trying to fix it. And with mental health, you kind of want to fix it. But what we've found is just being there and listening. Let's do that, get people in the ocean and connect them up with the professional support, because we're not professionals.
Yeah,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I jump in? I am a psychologist, and this is a really great conversation to be a part of because I'm brand new in this journey. And I also, going forward, want to be very clear. And I've had a lot of other psychiatrists and psychologists, lawyers just tell me like, whoa, you have to be super careful, because I have to also be very clear. I'm not doing therapy wherever I go as a psychologist. So this is great. I love the postcard idea. I have info on a website, but it doesn't translate to the experience in person. So, and I feel like that just helps to create that clarity. And I plan to do that. I really appreciate getting to hear what everyone has done in your different organizations.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's what we have. We actually have some mental health professionals that run OneWave, but we want it to be a time when they can come down and be part of the community and not feel like they are being the mental health professional. So that's like you're doing. That's been a learning for us as well.
Jack, were you about to say something?
Yeah, so for us, we're the practical side of making habits of getting off farm. That's the issue, is that these guys are just 7 days a week on farm all day, all long. And so, for us, we really make it clear to our coaches that we're the surf therapy vehicle, the practical side, and we don't want it to become a place where down the beach, farmers are getting knocked on the shoulder, being like, "Oh, you guys, like, how are you feeling, mate? Like, are you okay?" Like, and because you'll scare them off and they won't come back, because we do really just want to focus at the beach of the surf therapy, the hangout, barbecue, and then like you have, Grant, and Erin and others, real support trust 0800 number if they're on the cliff, and then also organizing a couple other organizations for well-being courses, and having just a little stand at the beach for farmers to glance at. There's no pressure, there's no flyers, it's just there's the number guys, and we focus purely on surf therapy, and don't want the pressure of our head coordinators who are volunteer to have to feel like they're automatically becoming farmers are coming at them with this problem, that problem. And so that's I think it's really nice to be able to have a relaxed environment where it's just purely surfing, and then the numbers who we give are there if they need.
Just kind of jumping on what Jack had said and Grant and a few others. I think, because I've had a couple women, probably because my intake form does ask, pretty like, it dives into a lot of mental health questions. One reason, because I want to make sure, like, if somebody's having actively suicidal thoughts, that like we have a phone call and we make sure that they have other support systems, and that they're not thinking that this is going to be enough to address that. But I think it's also true, some women, I think it's such a nice way for people to get that support system they're looking for, and not feel like, because a lot of women we see that they're not necessarily looking for psychotherapy. And certainly if somebody's looking for individual therapy or looking for medication or looking for, something like that, we are more than happy to give them the resources that we have connected with. But I do think it's true. I work with women now. I worked with like Marines for like 10 years. So then I definitely did not use the word like psychotherapy or, any, but I do think it's nice because then people feel like they're coming and there's not that pressure. And I try to be clear even when I do a phone call that says, I'm asking you a little bit about your trauma history. You will not, there is no pressure, no expectations that you will be discussing this, when you come down. So I think hopefully, and I know Grant's group is like this, that like opens it up for people to feel comfortable and not feel pressured.
Definitely. So we have about 5 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? And Chris, would you be our photographer again at some point? And will you let us know when you're going to do that, please?
Yeah. You let us know. Yeah.
I mean, can I add some things? Because of course I'm listening. And, the one thing about my position is not only do I get to talk to everybody, I also am a part of all these working groups. And so many of the conversations, I mean, ideally we're going to have an annual conference sometime again in the near future, but we bring all of you and hundreds and hundreds of other people together to have these really impactful discussions so that we again sort of raise the bar, right? So I want to go back very quickly. Local universities. For some people, it's like, well, that's kind of intimidating. If you type in your local university, you can go to specific departments: psychology, occupational therapy, social workers first, physical therapists, rec therapist, doesn't matter what department you want to go into. There's emails available now online. I mean, it is not like my day, people who I am older than everybody. The access we have to people and professors, the minute, again, going back to share, compose an email, send it out, because either you're going to hear from them or you're not. It's sort of, it doesn't really matter, but you can, based on the responses, you can tailor the email and change it up. The access to universities is how nearly every research and data has even happened in the sector. And as far as randomized controlled trials, which is all jargon for the gold standard in showing the efficacy of surf therapy, they have only happened from researchers from universities. So utilize those individuals who need to write a thesis or a dissertation and they really need research and data. So you're like, oh, data research, this is intimidating. I don't know. I don't even want to start it. Guess what? They have to do it in order to graduate. So that's and to Erin's point, that's exactly how they got going. And I can name basically every single program. We just had a really cool webinar with Foundation Wow. Grant, your name was brought up for the first 5 minutes. Obviously, Joel, couldn't be prouder of the work that you guys did together in the beginning. And that will be on our YouTube channel tomorrow if you want to hear about occupational therapy and how they utilize sensory orientation and different methodologies on the beach. We don't have to be clinicians, surf therapy was always meant to be a complement to other resources for mental health, as everybody on here has said. But the research does tell us it doesn't really matter what ails you, right? If you go to a surf therapy session, you feel a little better. So Amanda, you and I have spoken about this before. We're promoting psychological, physical, and psychosocial well-being, which is why we use the word practitioner. Practitioner is a person actively engaged in an art, discipline, or profession. So you don't have to feel like you're not actively engaged in what you're doing down on the beach and in the ocean. And lastly, on the research and we have become the #1 resource hub for the research. We are creating safe spaces on the beach. These organic conversations are happening without this need to therapize them, right? I'm sorry, I repeat this all the time. We really did trade in the couch for a surfboard, and it's meant so much more than traditional treatment, which is psychotherapy, sitting on a couch across from a psychotherapist. It's for those who have anxiety and depression and they're binge watching too much reality TV. And I am not speaking personally, people, but for those who are literally sitting on their couch all day long, they are now surfing because of the programs that you are putting together. So thank you for all that. I had to had, sorry, my little soapbox. I can't help it. I'm not even supposed to be on this call. I can't help it, but thank you.
All right, Chris, I think we're at 6:30. So you wanted to, unless anyone has another question. Anybody have any questions? Comments? Cigars, cigarettes? Okay. Would you like to take a photo, Chris?
Yeah. Again, thanks everybody. Erin, Shanden has been leading this group since March. Erin, thanks for co-hosting. We've had some incredible conversations. Another thing on our YouTube channel, Shanden put together some guest speakers that discussed military sexual trauma. Now, if you are working with any adults, this is something that I promise you're probably seeing without having the conversation. I implore you to go to the YouTube channel. It's going to be titled under ISTO Working Group, Adults Healing from Trauma. And Shanden, was that our last meeting? No, that was, see, I don't know, but you will see it on there because I actually put a trigger warning for those who have either experienced sexual trauma, but it is really impactful for anybody who is reaching out to adults, especially in this particular group, women. Amanda, I know you work with women, and Pascal, obviously you're working with women. We're all working with women. And again, we might not be talking about it, but the do's and don'ts and languages that Shanden, Luce, and Karen, who were the co-hosts, talked about was so informative. I knew a lot of it and I still felt like I got a lot out of that. So yeah, thank you. The whole idea of some people are just more comfortable with women instructors. Obviously, sexual trauma is not limited to women. So some men are comfortable with women instructors or men instructors. So all of those things, it's a really, really great video to watch if you guys want to just keep immersing yourself in this world. So I will take a very quick, I hope everybody's okay with social media. If you're not, I will put a cute little emoji face on you. But if you don't want to be in social media, you can let me know. But thanks everybody. Smile, shakas, or whatever you want to do. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you again, everyone, for
Thanks
coming.
so much, Shanden. Thanks, Erin.
And thank you, Erin. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thanks so much,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you to Shanden.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
For having me.